Anyone who has ever played Dead by Daylight knows that it's a textbook definition of wasted potential. Being the only game of its kind on the market is arguably the only reason why it has not crashed and burned, seeing as how, patch after patch of endless bugs, the player base and fans keep coming back. With the exception of the art, character production, thematic design, and music department, the game is a bit of a dumpster fire. But everyone and their mother has already told you this. I'm here today to make my case on the fact that even though Dead by Daylight is a complete mess of a game with a totally wasted potential, there's something out there that's even worse than the game itself: the player base that streams the game. To set the stage, here is my official Dead by Daylight streamer tier list. As you can see, everyone is resting comfortably in the bottom tier. And yes, just for completeness sake, these are all streamers I have watched before, many of whom I would even consider myself a fan of at one point in time. Now, I'm not a big fan of most streamers in general, mainly because of the lack of sincerity. I think the best comparison for streamers would be strippers. There's a lot of similarities between the two parties. Both get on stage in front of an audience, both make the majority of their earnings by asking for cash from their audience of strangers, both are very ungenuine, insincere, artificial, however you want to put it, in order to become successful. And that's my biggest annoyance with the majority of streamers, is that they are quite insincere and putting on an act to gain the money and time from their viewer base. It's different from, say, a movie actor who acts a role, because there is no illusion as to the character they are playing. Both parties know that the actor is playing a character and that their role is fiction. Whereas streamers in general will put on the act and pretend to care when in reality they're only there for your watch time and your hard-earned cash. Now, obviously this claim doesn't apply to all streamers, there are the exceptions, but the vast majority, especially those with the larger channels with the crazy fast scrolling chat and the larger donations, or the thought streamers that will whore themselves out for cash. The best example I have for this is often you'll see someone ask a streamer a question, and then they'll ask one back, but they're not really asking the question back to you because they want to know your answer, they just want to make the person think that they care. I've never been to a strip club before, because I'm a good Christian boy, but it's like when a stripper is being extra friendly to you at the club, or when an attractive barista or server is being flirty with you. 99% of the time, they couldn't give two shits about you. They just want to get into your wallet. Now this point is held valid for all streamers in general, including DBD streamers. But now we'll delve into the 4 reasons that are specific to Dead by Daylight streamers, and why they're just the worst. Reason number 1. I can do this, but you can't, aka gatekeeping. The first point in my case is when a streamer tries to do something stupid in a match, say with some unconventional perks, or they decide, forget the objective, this either being generators or kills, I'm gonna try some stupid shit. But for them, it's fine, because hey, they've got an audience, and they're trying something unique and creative. But when it's the flip side, and they're in a match trying to win, all of a sudden it's total blasphemy, and they either get uber annoyed at their teammates, or complain about the other players throwing, or they judge the shit out of those players for playing unconventionally. Now there's no defined rule for how you can play this game, except for maybe permanently body blocking someone in a corner. I'm pretty sure that's stated somewhere in the user license, or maybe the terms of service. But my argument here is that these streamers are a bunch of hypocrites. You can't have it both ways. Either you be annoyed when other players throw, and you 100% always play the game to win, or you double down on playing the game however you want, and letting others do whatever they want. It seems so often that these streamers flip-flop back and forth about which way they choose to go about this. Reason number 2. Saying skill-based matchmaking is a bad idea. Every single streamer I've ever watched for this game has been very vocal about skill-based matchmaking, and I just think that their arguments are just kind of bad. Because these streamers have spent thousands of hours playing this game, the majority of them are going to be pretty good. Spoiler alert, if you spend thousands upon thousands of hours doing the same thing, especially something as basic as Dead by Daylight, eventually you're going to get good. At least better than the average Joe Schmo who comes home after a long 9 to 5 and just wants to taste a terribly modeled survivor around as a big tall lady who shows off an impressive amount of side boob. So when Behavior has done their previous MMR tests, or depending on when this video is coming out, skill-based matchmaking tests have apparently worked pretty decently. I didn't really notice a huge difference since I am a solo queue player and have never not had potato teammates. But most streamers collectively agreed that skill-based matchmaking was not great because a lot of their games they were getting were extremely close and they had to try their hardest to win. Now this boggles my mind, but doesn't that mean the system is working perfectly? It's placing you in lobbies with players of similar skill level to yourself. All these streamers with thousands of hours are clearly being classified into a high skill category and are playing against other skilled survivors or killers. The big complaint is that the games are too challenging, and it would be nice to have more casual games in the mix so matches don't get so tiring and repetitive. But flip side, when there is an absence of skill-based matchmaking and the lobby created is more quote-unquote casual for the streamer, there's somebody on the opposite end who ends up getting stomped. And sure, it might be fun for the streamer or the higher skilled players, but for the more casual audience, or to the ones who don't spend their full-time job playing this game, it really isn't a fun experience at all. In a perfect world, the new and beginner players, or those just aren't that great at the game, are going to be matched up, and the players who haven't spent half a year playing will be matched away from these players. Obviously, a skill-based matchmaking system isn't going to be perfect, and to avoid longer queue times, there would be a bit of mixing. But the experience for new or inexperienced players should not be diminished for the sake of extremely good players or streamers to get more relaxed lobbies. I will remain puzzled as to why these Dead by Daylight streamers continue to advocate against skill-based matchmaking, and I have yet to see them create a strong reason as to why it is worse than not having anything at all. Reason number 3. Not saying no. I'm not trying to gatekeep complaining in Dead by Daylight. If any game deserves to be complained about, it's this one. But at some point, everyone will eventually reach a critical mass of complaints, and there's only one option left to do, and that's just to walk away and do something else. I think this is an unpopular opinion, but I don't think that DBD is meant to be played for thousands upon thousands of hours. Eventually, it's going to get old, unfun, the bugs and issues are just going to become too inconvenient. But even in that regard, if you're not having fun with the game, literally, just stop playing. I think it's really quite silly for somebody to be forcing themselves to play a video game, just for the potential to eventually be having fun. If you're not immediately having fun playing a video game, it's not like the game is holding you hostage or anything. How much playtime does a game really owe you? But then there's a counter argument from a lot of streamers that because their full-time job is to stream, or more so, to stream Dead by Daylight, where we approach our dilemma. Yes, of course anyone is allowed to complain about their job. It's been proven to be healthy, but only up to a certain point. Imagine your everyday Dead by Daylight streamer, instead of playing this game full-time as their job, they work at a McDonald's. If day in, day out they complained endlessly about their job, after a while you would just tell them, hey man, why don't you just go and try to find a new job? Nobody has forced these streamers to play DBD. It's not like this game has any set rules and guidelines in their terms of service, or a contract that's signed for streamers to play their game. Behavior has made it pretty apparent that they don't give two shits about improving the aspects of the game that have been needing fixing for years. I.e., on consoles, we can't even have a consistent 30 frames per second, but hey, I have an idea. Let's rework all these maps graphically. The point I have messily tried to get across is that Dead by Daylight streamers will bitch and moan endlessly about the game, except very few of them won't put their money where their mouth is and to just stop playing, instead of endlessly complaining about not having fun. Reason number 4. Streamer entitlement. Dead by Daylight is not designed around streamers, and nor should it be. Dead by Daylight is a casual game for players wanting to play in a unique 1v4 scenario with monsters and horror icons. I'll be the first person to talk about the utter incompetence of Dead by Daylight developers, as I have previously mentioned earlier in the video. The idea that so many of these streamers think that they understand the game and what's best for it, and what is fun and what isn't, gets very grating after a while. There was a recent video that surfaced that a bunch of streamers piggybacked on, talking about how the last few killers released are leading down a road of the game being very unfun. I mean, maybe in your opinion, but the numbers don't lie. Just recently on Steam, Dead by Daylight hit over 100,000 players. And mind you, this was just on PC, not accounting for your Xbox, PlayStation, Windows Store, or the 4 people out there who play this game on the Switch. So, when these streamers drone on and on about how, this killer's not fun, this killer is bad for the game, they obviously don't know shit. The vocal crowd of a community does not represent the lump sum, or even the majority of a specific group. A common joke you hear is most people who play Dead by Daylight aren't actually having fun, but while everyone who plays has a lousy bad match here or there, the majority of people who play the game are receiving the serotonin to their brain. At the end of the day, this is only a video game, not a heroin addiction. And just to clarify, I'm not knocking against streamers when they propose ideas they think would make the game better. That's fine, everyone is allowed to make suggestions. I think it's just irritating that, when after having their ideas ignored for so long, and when the devs don't take them into account, they will still continue to bitch and moan and act like they could fix the game and know the proper way this game should be developed. They're only streamers, they don't work for behavior. They don't know the code behind the game or any of the behind the scenes, so it's pretty irritating when they drone on and on about how they know what's best for Dead by Daylight and how, if only the devs implemented my ideas. Clearly, these guys don't know shit about fuck, because if people really disliked the game, they would have stopped playing. Yet Dead by Daylight remains alive with a healthy player base. Behavior is doing something right. Hopefully a day will come when a competent competitor creates a similar experience to this one, or the game finally collapses underneath the spaghetti code. But until then, nothing is going to change, and especially not from the helms of these streamers. So yeah, Thanks for watching. These are the main reasons why I think that Dead by Daylight streamers are just kind of the worst. I know not everything these streamers do is awful, especially when they do their charity streams to raise money for various worthy causes, but if it wasn't apparent, I have played a lot of Dead by Daylight. I used to watch a lot of these streamers play the game, but I eventually got to the point where the same things were popping up in almost every stream I watched, and I just wanted to get my message out there. And hey, let me know what you think of Dead by Daylight streamers. We can have a nice civil discourse in the comment section. Thanks for listening, everyone. This has been Tall James.